What's that? Who there? Whoa.
How did you go about analyzing different markets and thinking about opportunities, right? Like what are the for people that aren't as familiar with venture style thinking and have anchored more towards the pure founder, start from scratch, don't know anything, try to figure it out. What were some of the frameworks that you used to try to analyze different spaces and try to find where there were opportunities?
Yeah, great question. And I think there are sort of two broad approaches that people take, right, in startup ideation. And by the way, like usually EIRs have a lot of work experience and they're super legit and have already started and sold something. So I was really lucky to have this role. It was at a smaller fund, but one that would take a chance on me and believe in me. And so just kind of having that opportunity was pretty great. But yeah, I think the two approaches that are typically taken. One is the bottoms up approach, the sort of Paul Graham, solve problems that and have real empathy with, particularly if you would be your own customer or user. And I think that is, if you can do it, it's one of the best ways to think about starting a company. You have that initial validation of the idea, and you can feel really confident that it's a need that exists because you have it, and you're not building for no one. And then there's the other approach, which is the tops down approach, and really, similar to the framework that a venture capitalist would use to decide if a business is worth investing in. And would say there are three main factors in that framework. One is the size of the market and how it's sort of trending, and ultimately that determines how big you can get if you're successful. The second is um, the product itself, and I think the framework I have here is like, can this business sort of generate durable profits at scale? And so durable means like, is it something that people want that's hard to copy? Profits mean, what are the unit economics like, and will you actually make money? Sometimes you can get away with not making money, as we've seen with Uber and Lyft, but ideally you make money. And then the third factor is, just, again, making it big and being able to build something that you can actually replicate and scale. And then the last thing that a VC would look at is just execution and team, and is this the right team for the product? And so what I tried to do is apply both those frameworks and start from things that I had some familiarity with. Ideally in real estate, there were a lot of spaces I had been exposed to through Redfin, through my own research and reading, and so definitely tried to keep my research on ideas confined to that broad market. And so that was a way of just focusing myself and making sure I had at least some empathy for the ideas. And then once I had the short list that was mostly drawn from my own experience, then vetting that list with the more VC style framework and thinking about the market and thinking about the unit economics, the competitive dynamics. And so, and then, ultimately, I mean, I guess to simplify all this, like ultimately, like you really want to be able to tell yourself a story about why what you're building could be big, and why you're the right person to build it, because you know the problem and you know potentially the solution better than others. Um, yeah, so long-winded, but
Yeah, no, that's helpful, and I think it makes sense. I would love to kind of rewind the clock almost and put yourself back in that time frame where you had that short list of ideas. And I'd love for you to just run through, what were some of those other ideas that you didn't pursue? What ultimately were the holes that you poked that were too big to fill? And then when you were looking at the white space or the gap in office space furniture commercially, what were the things that attracted you to it?
yeah. So one idea that I didn't end up doing anything with was, this was a pretty like directly related to my time at Redfin, but it was around basically making it easier for real estate agents to get paid. So when you're a real estate agent, you're doing like maybe 5 or 10 deals a year, and so your income is really spiky. And so there are sort of products out there where, basically a lender will say, I will kind of give you 90 cents on the dollar for your commission, but you can get it paid today. And so it's a business called factoring, which exists in all kinds of B2B industries where you are getting paid later than you're offering a service. And so I looked into real estate, factoring for real estate agents and making that more transparent, solving those cash flow needs without kind of screwing people over, which is what some of the players in this market did. And it was a pretty cool idea and people liked it. But this was definitely an idea where I applied that market size filter and just thought, if I want to raise venture for this, it's just not quite big enough. of a market to play in, and you can obviously kind of expand your market, move into adjacent things. But I talked to a few VCs and the team at Notation. And they said this is a really cool idea, but it feels like more of a niche business. So that's one that was kind of uh, ultimately we ultimately didn't go with just because of the market size. And so, yeah, I mean, it was July 2018. I had just kind of gone through 3 months of exploring this idea. Was a little bummed that we decided to call it, and then got introduced actually by an intern at the fund to my now co-founder, Greg. And credit where credit's due, Greg is definitely the one who had the idea for Branch. So he worked at Breather, which is a flexible office space company, and he was in charge of their East Coast real estate portfolio. And if you think about what flexible office space is as a product, there's two inputs: there's the space and there's the furniture. And so, in the course of furnishing dozens of spaces around the US, he kind of had this insight around, okay, like there's not actually a great option here that's, and we'll get into this, but that's easy, that's affordable, that's flexible, and that serves my needs as a customer. So maybe other people have this problem. So Greg and I met. He kind of pitched the broad idea, and then we together did some of this work on market size, on the competitive dynamics, and on whether we felt like this was an idea we could really believe in.